Here I've got the eltamusic PF-3. It's a stereo Polivoks style filter, or more accurately perhaps, it's two independent Polivoks style 12 dB multi-mode filters with low pass and band pass, just like the Polivoks, but this has got the addition of high pass and notch and a softer mode to reduce that famous growl. These can be linked for stereo modes, or by patching the output of one to the input of two, you've got yourself a super nasty 24 dB Polivoks style filter. We've also got pink and white noise on board and a CV input to control each channel, again independently or linked. In this little intro demo, I'm using the LFO out from the Mini Brute 2 to give a CV input to the left and the right channel inverted, giving us a lovely stereo image with input 1 on the left channel and input 2 going to the right channel. And what do I mean when I talk about the famous Polivoks growl? Well, I've got here the Alpha Juno 2 from Roland. It's famous for having a not very exciting filter, shall we say. It's quite smooth, it's nice, but it's not a raucous thing. When we add resonance, we lose loads of bass and volume. But that's as resonant as it'll get. Now if we go over to this and we put the resonance up and play with the filter on that instead, getting a much thicker tone, crank up that resonance a bit more. Getting loads more grit in there. With the soft mode, we still get it, but not quite as much. And then if we bring in filter 2 as well, we've got 24 dB. Dirty as that, isn't it? Just bring that level down a bit. Throughout this in the edit, actually, I'm bringing the volumes up and down so you can hear stuff without blowing your speakers or hurting your ears. And just to show you what I mean by that, this is the edit. This is me in DaVinci, and we've got on the top right hand side here, we've got the volume of each of these bits of the track. So this one's minus 0.2. This one's at 8.2, so a lot louder. I've had to crank it up. This one's at minus 6. This one's at minus 18.6. So when I'm doing the squelchy stuff, I really am having to crank things down. So these filters are absolute screamers. Anyway, back to the Juno, just so that you can compare that again. So from two. The Polivoks style filter has got a lot more girth. The first and most obvious question then is, does it sound anything like a Polivoks? And I'm happy to report it does. If we leave the PF-3 fully open and the resonance down, so now we're just listening to the Polivoks filter. When we add resonance, we don't lose any bass. But you'll see we get that little sort of bump at the top end. There we go. And then we get into self-oscillation, it goes crazy and probably really affects some bats in the area. You can see that little peak there around 20 kilohertz. Apologies if you can actually hear that, I can't. Now watch out here, I will turn it down in the mix, but this is going to go nuts. As I turn this up, and there's your Polivoks. Okay. But if we just wiggle it around here. Lovely, dirty, grungy filter. So let's try it over on the PF-3. As we introduce the resonance, we don't lose any bass, but we do get that little bump at the top end. Now, we're not getting the thing that we're hitting around 19 kilohertz on the Polivoks itself. I think this is because the frequency of this is a bit higher. So there it is. Now we can hear it. So just be careful of your ears. It's doing very, very similar thing to the Polivoks, isn't it? Try that again over on the synth. Completely unusable in the track, but again, try and repeat that on the PF-3. Yeah, I'm getting really similar results. It's a little bit difficult to do because the Polivoks really only does anything between 0 and 2.5. If we open that up again, you'll see what I mean. So filters completely closed down at 0. And it's essentially completely open at, well, just as we get to about 3. There must be something else happening in much higher frequencies there. But so this low end here is around the mid section on the PF-3. So they are slightly different, but then again, every Polivoks is slightly different itself because the op amps that they're using aren't designed to do this. So if we listen to the second one in this, let's just put this into input 2. Filter 2 is using exactly the same tech as filter 1, the same circuits, but because it is using these op amps, it is different, as I say. So let's add resonance. We're getting that bump there, but we're getting a slightly different bump, aren't we? We can see the rise there at about 19 kilohertz, which we couldn't on filter 1. Wow. Okay. Let's turn that resonance down a bit. Same again, sort of the same sort of madness. Let me think what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to turn the resonance all the way up. So again, watch your ears. With this one, it doesn't disappear like it does on mine. And that's a lot screechier. But we still get that mental hit. So it's slightly different, but still the same character. And when I've spoken to other people that I know that have Polivoks, they all do slightly different things, but they're all just as mad in different ways. So again, back over to the Polivoks. Same sort of dirtiness. So as far as does the PF-3 sound like a Polivoks, I would say absolutely yes. We've got this soft mode here as well, so it doesn't have to be that dirty. If I turn this all the way up again, put it onto soft mode for both. put that into hard mode as well. You can hear it's a bit more raspier in hard. Hard's more like the Polivoks. In soft mode, actually, with this one, when I bring it all the way down, it starts screeching. So, whoop, I was going to say so won't do it. So I can't really turn that one down less than 1, whereas on filter 1, I can. So I can close that off without it screeching. If I do the same on filter 2, we get that really high-pitched squawk, which goes to show again that they are different. Filter 1 and filter 2 are slightly different, as in all Polivoks are slightly different. But what that does mean is that we can do really nice stereo things. You can take a mono signal, you can split the mono signal into the 1 and the 2, then you can get some really nice stereo effects. I've set up a mono patch on this, but it's coming out in stereo. Well, it's coming out of the left and the right, but it's the same sound out of the left and the right. This isn't a stereo synth, only the chorus adds a bit of stereo, and that's off. So we can get lovely subtle variations in the stereo here. We've got the 2 channels linked at the minute with this. We can link the CV or we can link the frequency. So these 2 knobs here can be linked, but nothing else can. Which means we can have a little bit more resonance on one than the other, for example. Some subtle variations. Let's link them. Or unlink them and do different things with the frequencies. So if you've got 2 hands free and you're playing something, you can get lovely, lovely little subtle, as I say, variations in the stereo field, doing nice things with that. And just to show you what else we've got here, got the hard and the soft. I think I've shown this a couple of times already, but hard's got more grit to it. And then we've got noise as well, pink or white. So you turn that up, it's in there, so you can do little effects with this as well. Left filter or right filter. And we've got white or pink noise as well. So playing something like this and adding a little bit of noise is lovely. And of course we've got bandpass mode. Independent level for both channels and a dry stroke wet knob. High pass, so we don't have the high pass on the Polivoks. Lovely textures in there, aren't there? And then we got a notch. Let's go fully wet with the notch. And of course, you can modulate this frequency with the CV. Let's take a look at these CV inputs now, shall we? I've got the Arturia Mini Brute 2 here, and this is really useful because it's got an LFO out. So I've got the LFO out going into this, it's a neural labs, or neutral labs, I should say, splitter or little mult basically. And I'm taking one of those and sticking it through the inverter. And I don't know if you can see on the camera, but one's positive, one's negative. So I've got positive going to the left, negative going to the right. So you can get beautiful stereo images from a mono source. Although it's a mono synth, actually, I'm using two outputs. I've got the headphones out and the main out going into the left and the right. And if you see here, the levels are different because the headphone level is a lot less than the main level. So it's given the Mini Brute a much dirtier feel, isn't it? And what's really nice about this is this. Nice bit of FM rate modulation, and I'll slow things down a lot. And if I turn up the resonance on both sides, and then I'll link the CVs, so they're both going to be doing the same as we're getting for the input on the top. So now they're not inverted. You can actually hear there's differences between the left and the right, or channel 1 and channel 2. It's subtle, but you can definitely hear that we've got two channels in there, like two different filters. It's so dirty sounding, isn't it? If I turn the input lower, still got that dirt in there. Beautiful. Let's take the CV link off now. And now we can hear that one's pinging and the other isn't. If we try and turn that up a bit. Is that because it's going in reverse? Let's try them the other way around. Yeah, it's just the way one's inverted and the other isn't. Give them that snap at the top. This is in hard mode. Put into soft mode, it's not quite as dirty. Whoops. I love the dirt though. And of course we can set this up with the envelopes as well. So let's take the envelope out and just split that without inverting it. Let's have them independent. So it's a way of dirtying up pretty much anything. Absolutely beautiful, that, isn't it? I hope then that's given you a really good feel for what the PF-3 is, what it does, what it can do, and what it sounds like. I really like it. I think it's got a real character to it. It really does have the same or similar character to the Polivoks, you know, and both the filters being slightly different is quite cool because it does show that they all are a little bit different. And as I said earlier, everyone I know that's got a Polivoks, they all work in slightly different ways. So I like the charm of that. I like it brings a bit of life to something like the Juno 2, just adds a little bit more fizzle, a little bit more, I don't know what it is, irregularity, a little bit more randomness in the tone. It just gives it a little bit something extra, a bit more thickness. So, you know, great little thing. If I could have my perfect version of this, I'd probably have LFOs built in and an envelope follower built in, something that might take it into being mutator territory really. But you know, this is only, I think it's £250 thereabouts compared to the price of much more expensive units. So definitely worth checking it out. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was of some use to somebody somewhere. If it was, do subscribe, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. As you know, this channel is supported by affiliate links, YouTube ads, and my wonderful patrons who, for less than the price of a dodgy coffee month, get access to patches, samples, tutorials, and other little goodies. And also do check out my starskycar.com website as well. There's patches to samples there as well, stuff you can buy, and some free bits and bobs. So thank you very much for staying to the very end, and I will see you next time.